Hello and welcome to Post Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Tonight, we're going to talk about everything that happened in the NBA this evening, including a massive win for the Boston Celtics, ending the Cleveland Cavaliers' unbeaten streak. Then we're also going to talk a little bit about a couple of games from the last 2 days. Shaedon Sharpe looks like he's potentially having a breakout moment at this point. So I want to dive into some of the tape there. Then we're also going to dive into some Jalen Green tape and why he seems to be struggling right now. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Hello, everyone. It is a nice Tuesday night over in the United States, a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Australia, and we're going to dive deep into everything that happened in the NBA today, as well as talk about a couple of things that I mentioned at the top. We're going a little early tonight. The reason being that these last two games, in all honesty, just not all that interesting to me. I mean, the late one is involving the Utah Jazz, and we just can't be watching too many Utah Jazz games this season. It is pretty ugly for them right now. And then on the other side, San Antonio is without Victor Wembanyama. Oklahoma City is without Chet Holmgren. It just doesn't feel right to care a lot about that game, if I'm being honest. So much as I love that Oklahoma City team, much as I'm intrigued with what San Antonio is doing, we're going to go a little early. We're going to knock this out early, and we're going to talk through some of the things we have seen tonight, and maybe we'll mention some of the things that happened in those two games later on. Just a quick little recap before we dive into Cleveland, Boston, which is why I'm sure most of you are here. The Brooklyn Nets defeat the Charlotte Hornets 116-115. I watched very, very little of this game. I saw Cam Johnson catch a little bit of fire, but that was really it in terms of what I saw. Just looking here, Brandon Miller dropped 29 points. It's really good to see him get going because it's been a bit rough. It's been a struggle for him early in the season. Miles Bridges has 21 points. And then on the other side, Cam Johnson does go for 34 in that game. Jalen Wilson goes for 17 in place of Cam Thomas, who missed the game. The Denver Nuggets come back without Nikola Jokic after getting blown out by the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this week. They beat the Grizzlies 122-110. Big game from Jamal Murray. Big game from Michael Porter Jr. They combined for 51. Christian Brown and Peyton Watson combined for 34. They get a solid Russ game where he goes for 12 points and 14 assists, even though, again, they lose his minutes, despite the fact that they won this game by 12. On the Memphis side, I saw Santi Aldama get rolling a little bit here. If I remember correctly, I feel like that happened in the second half in terms of what I saw. So really just fascinating that Denver was able to pick up that win. Not great for Memphis. Ja Morant didn't play and is not playing right now, but that's one that you would expect Memphis to pick up even without Morant, without Zach Edey as well. And then finally, just like a total blowout in Dallas and New Orleans. New Orleans is a mess right now due to the injuries. Trey Murphy at least was able to suit up like he has the last couple of games. Brandon Ingram, goes for 17 points. Beyond that, they just really need CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson back. 4 of their top 6 guys are out right now. Luka Doncic goes for 26, and then Kyrie got really cooking in the third there late in order to kind of put this thing directly out of reach. Okay, the reason why you guys are here. The Cleveland Cavaliers came into tonight 15-0. They no longer have that O. The Boston Celtics defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 120-117. I went on to a stream with Mike Weisberg and Jason Timp, good friend of the program here, and talked about this during the fourth quarter. And I think you could take this a couple of different ways. And we're absolutely going to break down a little bit of tape from this. Don't worry. That's coming here momentarily. The first place I do want to take it, though, is that if I am Cleveland, I do not have Karis LeVert. I do not have Max Strus, and I do not have Isaac Okoro in this game. Those are three of your critical wings that will be playing the lion's share of minutes in the playoffs in all likelihood. I feel pretty okay about this result. You're without those three players. Darius Garland has a horror show of a night when Garland has been really, really good to start the season for them. He goes 3 for 21 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3, couple of turnovers, as we'll talk about in a minute, relentlessly attacked on defense. On top of that, Boston goes 22 of 41 from 3. I don't know, like that math to me adds up that the Celtics should feel, or the Cavaliers should feel okay about this result. And particularly what I really liked about the Cavaliers is that they never really backed down. This game was like an 18-point game at halftime. They easily could have gone away. And instead, they really battled, they really scrapped, they really clawed in order to try and get this thing back to a decent margin to where they could come back and try and get it in the fourth. They had a couple of shots at it late, a couple of shots to take the lead late. Donovan Mitchell made some ridiculous shots in this game. And I thought Evan Mobley played quite well for the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. You look at the box score, Mobley goes for 22, 11, and 6. It felt like that. He was impactful defensively. He slid around all over the place. It was really, really impactful to me. Had a couple of really big offensive rebounds to get putbacks. Couple of just quick standout things, though, before we get into like the big meat of what I want to talk about here and why I think this probably wasn't all that indicative of a game for these two teams moving forward. First and foremost, do we have like an update on Jarrett Allen in terms of why he didn't play late in this game? It was very bizarre. Like it feels like it was a coach's decision. Like I don't see any injury. I don't see any reason that he wouldn't have played. And they went with Niang late. And throughout the game, the Celtics, just relentlessly attacked Niang. They attacked a lot of guys. They attacked Merrill. They attacked Garland. But I don't know about you guys, but I feel much better about Jarrett Allen switching out onto the perimeter, if that's what's going to happen here, than I do about George Niang at this point. And Niang, I don't want to sit here and say like he had a bad game or anything. You know, he had 11 points. He was useful during that third quarter run for sure. But Jarrett Allen's been like a borderline all-star this year. I'm closing with the dude that has been a borderline all-star this year, who also defends better on the perimeter, if I'm Kenny Atkinson, and also gives me a fairly real interior presence defensively against the Cavs or against the Celtics team that at times, if you have that interior presence, will get jumper heavy and can create some variance to allow you to get back into the game. The second point here is, and maybe this is where we can just kind of go in and break down tape. This game was lost in the first half. The Celtics won this game in the first half tonight. And that's where all of our tape is going to come from. They just relentlessly attacked whatever the weak spot was on the court for the Cleveland Cavaliers every single time. If Sam Merrill was out there, they were bringing Merrill into a screen. If Darius Garland was out there, they were going to try and bring Darius Garland into the screen. If Niang was out there, Jaylen Brown was waving away screens because typically Niang was guarding Jaylen Brown for some reason. So with that being the case, I don't know that this was an indicative result of what we can see moving forward from these two teams in a playoff series. I generally am of the belief that in all likelihood, the Boston Celtics have an insurmountable math advantage on the Cleveland Cavaliers in a playoff series over a big picture thing, set of games. But this game at least like kind of made me think twice about it a little bit. It's weird. I'm of two minds because on one hand, everything seemed way easier for Boston tonight than it did for Cleveland. Cleveland got back into this game in the third quarter, making a ton of contested shots, making a ton of really difficult looks. And with Boston, frankly, kind of missing some easy looks and going away from attacking the mismatches that we're about to break down. But they still only lost by 3 without 3 of, honestly, like Karis LeVert is not a great defender, but athletically, I think I trust him in this specific matchup more than I trust Sam Merrill, George Niang. I mean, certainly Darius Garland, but Garland's going to play regardless. I don't know. If I'm a Cavs fan, I feel somewhat hopeful, while also wondering if the problems are a little bit insurmountable due to some of the things that we're just going to break down here, right? So let's just kind of dive into the tape. So Sam Merrill here picks up Jason Tatum in transition. I think longtime listeners of the show know I am a fan of Sam Merrill. I had a top 40 grade on Sam Merrill pre-draft. He goes, I think, with the last pick in his draft, which I think was 2020, if I remember correctly. Took him a little bit of time to establish himself. I think has turned into a real NBA rotation player because of his shooting. He's one of the 5 or 6 best shooters in the league in all likelihood. He can't guard Jason Tatum. He can't guard Jaylen Brown. He's just a little too small for these guys, right? And Tatum is just kind of shoving him everywhere. And what I want you guys to see here is just the impact that that has on the defense, right? And look, Donovan Mitchell like falls asleep here a little bit ball watching. But look at Mitchell. Mitchell at least has his eyes pointed this way here, like back toward Jalen to see if he is going to be okay. Is he, going to have time to get back? But this is like an easy same side kick out to a borderline all NBA player in Jaylen Brown. He is all the way here because there's not really another option to help off of. If Darius Garland helps up, Drew Holiday is one of the best cutters in the world, and he's just going to cut backdoor, and that's going to be an easy bucket right at the rim, especially with Jared Allen pulled away from the rim. Or if, Evan Mobley rotates over, Drew just shoots this out to the corner. It's either open 3 for Al Horford or Allen rotates down, open 3 for one of the best shooters in the league in Derek White. So at the end of the day, like this same side help, it's probably where you have to help from. And Donovan's mad about it because he ended up like just slightly falling asleep here. Like you can see he ends up just flat footed here for a second. But this goes to show just the level of engagement you have to have against Boston or they're going to kill you. They're going to absolutely kill you from 3. Here, we got Darius Garland. They decide to get the ball to Jason Tatum. Drew Holiday comes up, sets a screen with Sam Merrill guarding him. Cavs decide to switch it, and now we've got Sam Merrill on Tatum again, just backing him in. So what happens on the backside here? Just typical stuff that happens defensively whenever you have to collapse on a drive. So Jared Allen steps up to help. Good decision. If he doesn't step up to help here, this is a bucket for Jason Tatum. Because Jared Allen steps up, Evan Mobley has to help the helper here. That leaves Al Horford, 40% three-point shooter, wide open. Good contest for Mobley, but it's an easy catch and shoot. Against the Celtics team, you can't give those shots up. Got some bench guys out there now. I do want to shout out Craig Porter Jr. I thought Craig Porter Jr. was outstanding tonight. I thought the adjustment that Atkinson made to go more with him as opposed to Sam Merrill in the second half was a huge reason why they had success. Huge reason. He goes for 15 points. He's not always going to score 15 points, but he's somebody who can defend. He's somebody who can defend in this game because he moves well. He's strong. He rotates well. He's a good scramble defender. But what happens here? So Derek White's getting guarded by Niang. Switch. Niang's now on Peyton Pritchard. On the backside, you've got Ty Jerome, who I think has just picked up Tatum. Oh no, what happens here is it's a stack pick and roll. The Cavs do a pretty good job of putting two on the ball here and defending and kind of throwing off the timing on the stack pick and roll. So what a stack is Keita is coming up here to set a screen. Peyton Pritchard kind of came up from behind Keita, and then he's going to pop after screening for Keita to roll. You're going to see here after a second ball screen that he just kind of slides into after the timing got thrown off. Or maybe this is just a counter. Could be either way. You're going to get like a screen into a slide pop here. And because of that, you see Ty Jerome here and Evan Mobley here call out for switches in order to make sure that Keita doesn't just roll all the way to the rim here. Honestly, the Cavs execute this fairly well. But the problem is that Ty Jerome is guarding Jason Tatum, and that's just not something that's going to work. Tatum, he goes for 33 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, was every bit the superstar that you expect. He's been one of the 5 best players in the league this season, undeniably. So again, I love how patient Jaylen Brown is here. You get Derek White to come up. He sets a screen. You can see Tatum like motion there. Hey, set it on the other side. Doesn't quite work in terms of the angle. White then just goes to the other side. Merrill flashes out once he does that, which means that Brown can now string out Sam Merrill. And once that happens, I mean, it's Sam Merrill. And again, much like with Tatum, Merrill does a fine job here. Like, he can test this. He does as well as you possibly can do. And Jalen can just elevate over him to finish. It's a little too easy. Again, now you've got Evan Mobley on Brown. Merrill pops out. 14 seconds on the shot clock. Way too much time to be able to do this. Just powers through. The Cavs recognize it from the last possession. George Niang comes up off of Horford to help. That means Craig Porter has to help the helper. Otherwise, they give up an open layup. Jalen literally just waits for Craig Porter to make his move. Kick out to Peyton Pritchard. Too easy. Just a little too easy. Again, we're going to get another mismatch. Just attacking Sam Merrill. Just attacking him. Another switch. Just too athletic. They stay home for what it's worth here. Like, I think they make the right call. Okay, we're going to stay home. We're going to make Sam try and guard him. And Sam works hard here. But he's just not athletic enough. He just isn't athletic enough. We live in a world where some guys have gifts and advantages that other players don't. And while Merrill has maxed his tools to be able to make the NBA, Jaylen Brown is something different. Another screen up, this time Drew Holiday being guarded by Darius Garland. And again, Garland is just too small. They switch it. Brown just powers through. Jerome kind of gets caught pseudo helping. I don't even know if I want to call this like a full scale help, but he's trying to at least sit in here in the gap, stunt-ish, like he's there and available. We're just attacking mismatches. That's all this is. There's nothing complicated about this from Boston. This is actually incredibly simple offense. It's just when you know you have the advantage, you take it. So this one, Derek White realizes that he has Darius Garland on him, gives the ball to Jaylen Brown, comes over, sets the screen. Switch. Okay, sure. Sounds good. So we talked about helping the helper, right? So Jared Allen comes over. Again, I think the Cavs do a really good job on this possession. It's just that the Celtics put you in so many different binds that it's really fucking hard to guard them. Evan Mobley is literally positioned perfectly here. You cannot do it better than this. He is cutting off both angles for Jaylen Brown. Donovan Mitchell has gone to help the helper. But sometimes the offense wins, right? Look at where Jaylen Brown's looking. Evan Mobley has now turned his back. He can't get to this ball now. So Brown, his eyes, he's looking at Jason Tatum. Mitchell is looking at Jaylen Brown, trying to figure out where he's going to go with the ball. He leaves early, hoping that Jared Allen can get back, and there's just not enough time. Horford beats him to the spot. And now this one, now the Cavs don't really totally know what to do. Last possession of the first half. Kind of a ghost screen, right? Where fun set, super simple. White goes this way. This is why you run ghost screens. Is for momentary confusion between the two guards. Garland thinks he's staying home. Mitchell thinks he's switching. Nobody guards Jason Tatum. Just attacking mismatches, just attacking the matchups that we want if you're Boston here. It was that simple. It was that easy. And Joe brings up, how many times am I going to mention the Cavs missing mediocre bench guys before he says the name Porzingis? Yeah, honestly, this matchup does not get easier for the Cavs. I mentioned on the stream that I did live with Jason that like Porzingis is a huge deal in this matchup because he pulls Jared Allen away from the rim. He's another option to post their guards. They can't switch. They basically, like they can't switch pick and pops with Porzingis. Let's say they do, right? Porzingis is just going to go into the paint and try and back those guys down or establish position. If you play in drop, Porzingis is going to murder you from three. There's just not really anything that they're going to do. And that's ultimately why I still like Boston 100% in this series if they do play. And honestly, I think it's probably like a 5 or 6 game series. I don't think that it's a super, super tight group of games. They still just have the matchup advantages over Cleveland. And we saw that tonight. That's ultimately why Boston is such a problem. I know Boston has lost some weird games this year. They're 12-3. Everyone expects them to win every single game, right? Because they're unbelievable. This is still, to me, right now with Oklahoma City, certainly without Chet, they're still the best team in the league. Like, it's all due respect to Cleveland. They fought like crazy tonight. And honestly, if you made me say, I would say that Cleveland being without all of Okoro, Strus, and LeVert is probably, if not exactly, it's fairly applicable to the Celtics being without Porzingis, if not more. In all honesty, being without those three versatile-ish defenders in LeVert's case, but Strus is a fairly good defender, and then certainly Okoro is a good defender. It's just that you lose out on the math game with him in terms of three-point shooting. I don't know. I come away like excited about Cleveland, that they were able to like weather this storm from Boston despite not having a full lineup, and also just recognizing that the process here was way easier for Cleveland, or for Boston. I'm sorry. The process was just way easier for Boston. That's the reality. That's kind of all there is to it. Folks, our good friends over at PrizePicks. We love PrizePicks over at the Game Theory Podcast. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We love PrizePicks here at Game Theory because of how easy it is to get real money sports action. The one I'm excited about this weekend with football, Tyrone Tracy, baby. I love the matchup. We're going over Tyrone Tracy yards for the New York Giants this week. Come on, let's do it. Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Pride of Italy. Let's do it. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Second here, shout out to Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth for just $5 per month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Okay. Now let's dive into the two players that I wanted to talk about tonight. And I paired them purposely and specifically for reasons that we'll talk about throughout the video. But Shaedon Sharpe and Jalen Green are similar in terms of the role that they have to play for their teams. But I'm actually, I don't know that I want to go that far yet. I would say that I am intrigued by the growth that Shaedon Sharpe has made over the course of his time in the NBA. And I actually think he has made more growth. He was starting from a lower place than Jalen was, for sure. But I think he has shown more growth in his time in the NBA than what I've seen from Jalen Green at this point. And I want to kind of talk about why I am impressed with what I've seen from Shaedon here, especially over the last 3 games. Let's go with those are the games where he's really played minutes. Like he's played 33 minutes against Minnesota, 36 minutes in the back-to-back against Minnesota, and then 32 minutes against Atlanta. 17 in the first game against Minnesota, 33 in the second game, and then 32 in the game that we're going to break down against Atlanta. And again, part of the reason I want to talk through an Atlanta game is because Atlanta has a guy in Dyson Daniels that literally has a freaking nickname, the Great Barrier Thief, because of how good he has been defensively. And for the most part, Shaedon Sharpe is the one that had that responsibility of being guarded by Dyson Daniels throughout the course of this game. So I want to run through and just kind of dive into what has been so impressive about Sharpe, why I think there is serious all-star potential here. Like, anybody that's saying Shaedon Sharpe is not a potential all-star, like, you guys are going to see as we go through the tape, like, there are real gifts here that athletically other guys just do not have. Point blank. There are gifts that Shaedon Sharpe has that other guys can only dream of. To this point, Shaedon Sharpe is averaging 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.8 turnovers per game. Over the full season, he has a 55.9 true shooting percentage. That is about, per Basketball Reference here, where is my number that I'm looking for? True shooting percentage, it's about 2% below league average. So basically fine. But he's doing it in terms of being basically fine with true shooting percentage right now in terms of his efficiency as a scorer, despite only shooting 28% from 3. And Shaedon has been a pretty inconsistent shooter to this point. When he was with his first year in Portland, they used him a lot more as like a catch and shoot guy, and he made like 36% from 3. It was pretty okay, right? Last year, only played 32 games, got hurt, missed a good amount of time, only shot 33% from 3. This year, 6 attempts per game, 28% from 3. In general, I want to buy into him as a shooter. I think he has real touch. We're going to talk through some of the mechanical stuff that I worry about a little bit. But what I will say is that he is hitting on a very limited number of attempts to this point. 37.5% from 3 on catch and shoot opportunities. So let's just kind of dive in and talk through what we're looking at here from Shaedon Sharpe, who is, by the way, still just 21. Will play this whole year at 21, I believe. So for people who have not watched much Portland Trailblazers basketball the last 3 years, can't say that I blame you. That is Shaedon Sharpe. You know, crazy story. You know, one of the great recruits out of Canada, has this incredible, unbelievable growth story where he was kind of off the radar to start. What was that? Coming into his junior year, blows up that summer, decides to, continue to figure it out, becomes a guy that decides to, for his senior year, I believe, go to Kentucky in the middle of the year, red shirts, doesn't play that year, and then declares for the draft. And we've always known Shaedon is this unbelievable athlete. The feel for the game has always been the question with Shaedon, as well as the handle. His handle hasn't always been this good. I think his handle has really shown growth over the course of his 3 seasons. That's probably the biggest area for improvement. And we're going to talk about what I particularly like about the handle here as we get into the tape. So this possession, started him in the corner early on, second possession of the game for them, I believe. Get into a DHO from Klingon. He's being guarded by Dyson here. Look, it's a difficult shot. 5 seconds left on the shot clock, obviously. I like the way that Portland's offense kind of gets into this. They run these actions a decent amount of the time. Stuff that sets up as like a double drag. You have a player run through, scoot, going to end up kind of taking a potential DHO or a DHO reject. He's going to come here, and they're going to, continuity-wise, just get into a zoom action, right? Where Klingon's going to come, I think, one step this way. And they're going to get into what can essentially be a zoom, where the goal here is to get Daniels caught on a screen and get Shaedon downhill this way. Or if that doesn't happen, Klingon is able to come back up, rescreen into an empty side ball screen here to get a shot at the end of the shot clock. This one ends up being a tough shot. There's 5 seconds left on the shot clock. All of this takes a little too long for me in terms of just the execution. But again, this is good defense by Atlanta. Like, they did a good job on this one. And sometimes the defense beats you. Now he gets the rebound, brings the ball up the court. And he just kind of goes through Dyson Daniels here. And I think this is an area where we can see just his overall powerful explosiveness as a leaper particularly. But also when he plants his feet and really puts his shoulder into guys, even with him being quite skinny, he moves players. He's able to get into the lane here, kind of get that floater up over the top of Dyson Daniels. Nice little inside out. Uses the off arm super well here, right? With Daniels, you're never going to see me complain about offensive players getting physical, because there is no player that gets more physical than Dyson Daniels on defense. Does a good job, though. Powers up through, right? Here on the weak side wing. I love the relocation here, and I adore this shot. We're going to talk about some of my questions with his jumper. I have some real questions here, but this is just really smart. Does a great job relocating here to the corner, realizing that Dyson Daniels' back is turned. Also realizing that Capella is going to have to help up here. Daniels has to help the helper. And that's going to create a beautiful relocation opportunity here. Great pass out. Knocks down the shot. And what do we call these? Catch high, keep highs. Catch high, keep high from Shaedon Sharpe here. Beautiful. No dip three. Drills it. We'll talk about some of the stuff with the shot in a minute here when he starts to miss a couple. Empty side ball screen, rejects it. Finds the open shooter, right? It's great work. He's not a great passer yet, but he's able to collapse the defense in such a way that he's able to find those occasionally. Now, what I want to call out here, and what I want you to pay attention to when we break down Jalen Green, is the pace that Shaedon plays at off the bounce. The hesitation here. Kind of strings it out. Goes a little bit slower. Brings Capella to him. Forces this guy to stay attached. Jalen Johnson has to help here. He has to be available for Donovan Klingon now. He decides to look away. Hits the open three. By the way, compare that three in the corner. Literally the same thing we just saw from Shaedon Sharpe. Look at how much longer it takes Jeremy Grant to get this three off, and he gets contested by Jalen Johnson. Hey, it's a good sign. It's a good sign, right? I will say, I think Jeremy Grant has to get this off a little bit quicker. That is right there. And it's so subtle, but it's a little dip, right? He takes just that little dip, and guys dip, right? Like, it's fine. Like, you know, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but That's the difference between Sharpe's 3 and Jeremy Grant's 3. It's just that little momentary dip there that throws it all off. Scoop bring the ball down now. Empty side ball screen. Finds the cut. And again, we're just going to see. Daniels turns his back. And there's just real downhill force here. Shaedon has a ton of downhill force. Even though he doesn't really look like a guy. Dyson comes this way thinking that he's going to be able to get a steal from Scoot. He doesn't always play at super high like energy or tempo necessarily. When he jumps, I mean, my goodness, he is coming up and taking off in a big way. So here, Shaedon, defensively, I think Shaedon's a real mixed bag on defense, honestly. And by mixed bag, I would probably argue just not very good right now. This one, just too laissez-faire after the original like effort here. I will also note here that I don't know what the deal is with Sharpe, but I rarely see him point at the very least on tape. And I do feel like communication errors defensively happen with him a little bit more than I see with other guys. I think he has to really engage a little bit more on that end. Here, this is just flat-footed. I mean, this is just not good enough, right? It's not good enough. There's not another way to put it. Puts Jeremy Grant into a terribly unlucky position. And then just like completely loses track here of what's going on ball watching. So he's responsible here for Ricochet. Kamara here is responsible for Trey right now. He's just like lost here. Kamara is like literally shoving him back in saying, hey, we got to switch. We got to go. I mean, he's just not engaged enough. That's the reality of this. Not engaged enough. Got to really improve on that side of the court. So kind of a cross horns action here where Avdia comes up here. Williams comes up here. Sharpe has the option to take either screen. Just decides to pull it, right? Look, I would prefer he attack here, if I'm being honest, but that's because I don't think he's a good enough shooter for this yet. In terms of the jumper mechanics that bother me, I think his elbow comes a little bit too close to his face. And the ball comes a little bit too close to his face. Elbow's bent, bringing the ball back a little bit too close to his face. And I think that leads to release point inconsistencies for the most part. Some balls with Shaedon come out really flat. Some balls come out with a really good, solid, high arcing shot. He needs to improve the consistency of his release point. And I think that'll probably involve bring the ball a little bit, having less dramatic movement back toward his face on the jumper. So here, just loses track of the handle a little bit. But I like the vision here. You know, he's looking at least, seeing what's available, waits for this ball to come back out. Goes in, draws the foul. Do I think this is a foul? I don't. But again, the pace, the setup moves here. Just look at him. He's slow. He goes slow to fast very easily. It's kind of like a Cadillac almost, but then has that ability with his long strides to be able to get to the rim in a hurry in a way that a Cadillac typically doesn't. One area I will say, like, I'm not a big Chauncey Billups fan as a coach. I don't know who is running their baseline out of bounds plays, but we're going to run through 3 of them here throughout the course of this video that are awesome. So Sharpe's going to come up, screen here for Jeremy Grant to come through to the rim. Then Going to get Rob Williams to come through here. Sharpe's going to get an open shot from the corner. One thing I want to call out here on the move. Look at how wide his base is on this shot. That'll be important for when we discuss another three that he takes later. So here, guard to guard DHO. Love this action. Absolutely love this action. Great way to involve this player here, who I think is a great matchup for Shaedon Sharpe, because Sharpe can just explode through him. Ricochet has kind of a high center of gravity, has hips that are just a little bit too high, I mean by that. And he's quite skinny still, which means Sharpe's just going to be able to explode through him, right? Just look at how far back he moves Ricochet. Initial contact is here. Ricochet is going to like end up underneath the rim. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now we get Shaedon filtering to the corner. This is the one that I wanted to talk about in comparison to the wide base. I would argue here that his base is quite narrow this time. There's no real consistency in terms of the catch and shoot base. He's such a good shooter that sometimes it just goes, or he has such good touch, I guess, that sometimes it just goes. But this is why the shooting numbers have never been super consistent. It's because the shot mechanics aren't wildly consistent. That stuff should improve as he gets older. But that's why right now he's a breakout guy and not just like a star immediately. He's going to have games like this where he goes for 30, but he's also going to have games where it's quite rough. And it's because of the shooting inconsistency. Look at how that ball, by the way, also to speak to like inconsistent release point. This ball is super flat, right? I think he hangs on to this one longer than what he typically does. And you can just see it come out of his hand. Super weird. Klingon gets the rebound. So here, thought I clicked my button. Again, screen from Sharpe. This time, Kamara comes through. Very similar action, right? Instead of coming around the screen, Trey denies it, understanding what Sharpe is trying to do. Sharpe just adjusts, gets to the corner anyway. Good adjustment there. But the reason I like this action here, just out of a baseline, out of bounds, right? Forces a switch before here, I believe. So let's get through this clip real quick again. And if I remember correctly, the way that this play set up was that Trey was guarding Kamara. Daniels was on Sharpe. They switched this. And now you've got Trae Young on Shaedon Sharpe, which is a terrible matchup for Atlanta. Now you're going to try and get Trae through screens. I actually like Trey's effort here. He tries to get over the top of the DHO potentially, get over the top of the screen, forces him baseline here where he knows he has help. But again, Ricochet is just a little bit too skinny, a little bit too tall to be able to do anything there. Does a really, really good job of using his athletic tools to be able to get to the basket. Really, really good job. Yeah, I mean, look, like, I don't think Billups is running the baseline out of bounds plays, I would guess. I would guess that he has somebody else on staff that's running these. For Colin that's asking, here's some awesome plays that I love. I mean, that's typically the way it works for teams, is that the head coach is not always responsible for like a typical baseline out of bounds play. So here, I mean, again, defensively, this is just like a no-no, like a totally unacceptable play. We're in transition. He's coming out onto Vecenie, who's shooting under 30% from three so far this season. Just drills the arm. Like there's no, can't happen. Engagement's got to be better. Second quarter still, Sharpe being guarded by Daniels. Again, ball just comes out super flat. Anytime where it's any sort of more complicated action, the shot mechanics just get a little bit fuzzy because there's not a lot of consistency there. So here again, brings the ball super close to his head. And just doesn't make it. So this one, early third quarter. This is just kind of an aside here. We're going to go into Scoot Henderson territory for a second. So I like the set. First play out of a timeout or out of a halftime break. Get a player to filter through. Maybe you get a cut. Great. If not, he goes up, sets a screen. Then you've got a secondary screen here for Klingon on the other side. And I love what Scoot does here. I love how Scoot cuts off the angle here for Jalen Johnson. He's trying to get this ball to Shaedon Sharpe. This is why this is applicable in the video. Ultimately, a couple of things are happening here. A, what I would like to see here is Klingon seal Capella here. And you're going to see literally the next possession, he does this for Shaedon. So that's one thing. Second, I have no idea what Scoot is thinking here on a bounce pass here. Just genuinely. I'm not sure in what world that a bounce pass is the right call against this defender in this situation where you're trying to get a cross corner kick out. Absolutely an insane choice. To me, Scoot just kind of has to bring this ball out, kind of reset, or maybe kind of string this player out here in Capella, see if he comes out, see if you can get Klingon on a lob, or just take a mid-range jumper. The thing you absolutely, or even better, what more advanced guards do, they will try to manipulate the defender in some way. They will look maybe this way to make it seem like Grant has come here, hopefully forcing him up and opening that angle, or they'll look up this way in hopes that he kind of filters through that way. There's just no manipulation here at the end of the day. Nothing really there. Terrible pass, terrible play. But this one here ends up being a foul. This is the next set that they run. Why did I put this one on here? So Sharpe gets this ball. Oh, I like the pump fake here, is why I did this. Good pump fake. Gets Daniels just a little bit up on his toes. I like the pass fake here. I would like to see him kind of jump stop here after Vecenie stays and then just actually hit this kick. I think that makes a ton of sense. Just going to check one thing. Yep. But instead, he gets moving. Tries to go up off of 1 foot. Gets blocked. That's why guys play off of 2 feet. A lot of guys like to play off of 2 feet because you allow yourself to stay a little bit more on balance. in that circumstance, but this is the next set here. So Shaedon's going to come up, go screen. Flare from Klingon for Shaedon to come around. Shaedon's going to reverse back and get into a DHO. Rejects the DHO. Similarly to last possession with Scoot, does a great job kind of cutting off that angle for the defender, right? So we're into a very, very, very similar position here. And I want you guys to watch Klingon. Klingon recognizes that last time he didn't seal. Look at him get a body on Capella immediately here. That's what opens up the angle for Shaedon to make the layup. But the last thing I want to point out here is just the pace, right? He's changing speeds. He slows down. He gets the ball so low to the ground here. This is one of the more impressive plays of the game for Shaedon, in my opinion. Gets the ball super low. Keeps Dyson Daniels, an unbelievable defender, on his hip here. Is able to go forward and then just elevates around. This is perfect. This is awesome. Here, I mean, this is one where, again, like with the guards for the Blazers, like somebody, asked me here, what criteria do you use to judge coaching? No X's and O's coach should get credit or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's not what I said. But like beyond that, one reason that I worry about Billups as a coach, I often feel like the guards, and maybe this is just these two, or maybe it's that they're young or whatever. I think these two guys, it often feels like to me that they don't have a sense of who the guys are that they're going up against. We saw that with the scoop pass to the corner. We see it here. I mean, I get it that Toumani Camara is open. This guy is one of the 3 or 4 best perimeter defenders in the NBA. Might have cases the best perimeter defender in the NBA right now. I'd probably take a couple other guys ahead, but I will hear out a case for Dyson Daniels. But particularly, he is unbelievable with his hands. You can't throw this pass. You can try and pump fake it, drive around, create an angle to be able to get it into him. But you can't just decide, I'm going to try and throw this over the guy that they're literally referring to as the Great Barrier Thief, who has 30 steals in his last 6 games when nobody else has more than 28 on the season coming into this game. That's one of the things that annoys me about Billups. I often feel like there isn't a great sense of who they are playing against and in terms of the scouting. Also, I think that he has just given guys like DeAndre Ayton and Anthony Simons not nearly enough accountability. And frankly, I think he hasn't given enough accountability to these two guys defensively either. To me, it just feels like a bad situation when I watch them. But hey, I'll hear out other opinions. This one, they get lucky. Toumani Camara is just awesome. Battles, scratches, claws. Again, a bit of a more narrow base here. I think this is actually like where he should live comparatively. I mean, that's like shoulder width apart. That's perfect. I think that base looks about right compared to the more narrow base where I felt like he was there earlier, or the wider base where we saw like his legs, like, kind of out this way. This is the one that he should live with, in my opinion. So here, just a little down screen, mid-range jumper, right? Like, down screen here. This, just from like an offensive architecture perspective, this shot, 14 seconds left on the shot clock, first action. This can't be like the first action we're running in terms of like getting a shot to get a mid-range jumper. So either they are not being prepared right, or they're not running great stuff. And I think this one's honestly kind of a combo of both. You can't just run like a down screen into a mid-range jumper, and that be your first action of the set with this little time left on the shot clock. A. And then B, I mean, if you're not preparing Shaedon to say, hey, you need to attack the paint. You have Trae Young in a switch on you right now. Go, attack. Like, this can't be the shot here. And maybe that's all on Shaedon. But you need to give the player the tools, I think, to succeed. And that is not an example of a successful shot and successful process, in my opinion. So this one, I mean, just totally space cadetting on defense here. It's funny because I actually like the engagement here. He gives the first effort, kind of stunts here, gets back to Dyson Daniels. Misses the rebound, gives like a second effort, right? And then he's just looking around like he has no idea where he's going. Again, like, this is a miscommunication. You've got guys flying everywhere. You've got Donovan coming out this way. You've got, who is that? Is that Kamara coming down? Yeah. You've got Shaedon looking this way when he's the guy between the ball and the basket. I mean, this is just, again, the communication with Shaedon needs to improve. Whoever's fault that is, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that like 1,000% of the time that's Shaedon Sharpe's fault, but the communication errors are an issue with Shaedon. They happen a little bit more than what you like to see. So this one, just get Shaedon wrapping around. And man, what I like here is A, they call the foul, which is great. But B, okay, so we're just like in a ball screen set, very simple, nothing crazy. Scoot's trying to attack downhill. You're going to see Shaedon replace cling and roll, right? Baseline, super baseline. Great closeout here from Dyson Daniels. I mean, that's just a straight line drive beating a really good defender off the bounce. Now, what I like to see, a couple of things here, and I think this will happen as he gets older. What I like to see, a wraparound pass, knowing that there might be a third guy there, so the wraparound might not be there. But what I like to see him go off of 1 foot more than 2 foot, more than anything, in order to cut down on the time that Capella has to try and recover. I would like to see a 1 foot finish here. He is long enough with a 7 foot wingspan. He is explosive enough to jump off of 1 foot. Instead, he loads up off of 2, which gives just that extra little split second for Capella to get here. This is stuff that will improve. This is stuff where I think he will get better. And he draws the foul anyway, so it is what it is. Here, again, just like another little baseline out of bounds play that I think is well set. Is this baseline or sideline? I can't remember. Yeah, it's baseline. So just 4 low into a zoom. Basic, nothing crazy. We're going to get Shaedon downhill. That's the whole goal. He gets downhill. We throw the lob this time, right? So brings Capella out. Rob Williams gets behind. As soon as Rob Williams gets behind, that's a lob read. Lob read every time, and he nails it. That's a good read. I mean, this one is just on here because truly a special athlete off of 2 feet. A does a great job beating Dyson Daniels down the court here. Dyson backpedals. He realizes that he can just go. Asks for it. Catches. I mean, eyes at the rim. I mean, this is easy. This is where he can live. He should get like 4 to 6 points a game in transition pretty easily just by that stuff, right? And then again, we're going to just do it again, right? He played a ton of minutes in this third quarter. I think he might have played the whole third quarter in all honesty. So he brings the ball up the court on this one. And it's just a simple back screen. And as soon as Okongwu takes this step forward, Delano Banton is seeing that that ball's up. This is really good. Like, this to me is an awesome set to put pressure on a defense when you have this guy as an athlete. Obviously, you have to have somebody like this, but Portland does. And what this does is if you have Rob set this screen here and then like look like he's coming up to set a screen for Banton, it just puts an immense amount of pressure on this defender here. Because he has to come up and potentially be right around here to take this dribble handoff. You can see Nance, he sees it immediately because Larry Nance is an icon and just knows exactly what he's doing at all times. But I mean, good catch, like went up and got it from like underneath the rim, maneuvers the ball, finishes. Just a sick athlete. It's not a complicated set. It's literally just a screen into a back cut. But I love how much pressure it puts on Onyeka there. I love how much pressure it puts on him. So now, Kongwu out. Another defensive possession here. I like the help here. If I'm going to show the negatives, I'm at least going to put the positives on as well with his defense. I think this is a really good rep on defense from Shaedon. Dyson Daniels like pseudo in the dunker spot. Comes up, helps, leaves Delano Banton in a 1-on-2 back here. Banton, after the kick out, realizes Nance is going to get this ball to Daniels, and then Sharpe's going to hit a perfect X out. This is the way that you're supposed to do it. This is good from Shaedon. This is really good. He is by and large not a great defender right now, but I'm going to call out the good ones when I see it. He knows how to do it. This is just beautiful, right? The level to which Rob Williams has helped this team is immense. Great rim protection for 48 minutes with Rob Williams and Klingon. But more than that, with Klingon and Williams, Rob Williams is a great passer and a great timer of his roles. Klingon is a great screener and has real ability to pass and be able to initiate actions at the top. Those two guys have made life so much easier for the guards. So screen, great screen here. What I want to call out. Again, slowing down, being patient. He just hits that perfect pocket pass to Rob Williams and one, drills it. So Sharpe. Screen, rescreen, again, just Rob Williams. Just Rob Williams making life easier for everybody out here. So screen. flip it into a rescreen. But again, the patience, the ability to slow down. This is what Jalen Green does not do. He slows down here and then hits the kick out, right? That ability to slow down, it lets you see the court really well. It makes life easier for everybody. But it also continues to put pressure on the defense for as long as you keep a live dribble. That's the growth where Shaedon has become really impressive this year in the moments where he's gotten on-ball reps. Again, now he's like kind of feeling it, right? And just look at the patience and the poise. Look at how he's going slow to fast, right? So just Rob Williams, again, obliterating dudes with screens. Does a great job cutting off the angle there. He stops. Slowing it down. Keeps the dribble alive, but then elevates. If you're feeling it like this, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm good with where that's at. Now ball kind of deflects off of Banton's face. And I put this one on here again. Like, this is one where, and I don't mean to continue to harp on like Jalen Williams, right? Or Jalen Green, I'm sorry. But I think Jalen Green just goes a million miles an hour down the court here. Sharpe slows down, brings Keaton Wallace out, and that opens up the lane for Banton. It's really good. It's really, really good. So here, I mean, now we're just hitting like cross corner kickouts off of a live dribble with one hand. Like, he really started to feel it in the third quarter here. Ball screen. We're going to go this way. And what I want to call out is he's just looking at Ricochet here. Like, you can see him looking. See him where he's going to go. Ricochet tags. Right play by Ricochet. Krejci gets out. Contests. Sorry, that's Jalen Johnson. But yeah, I mean, it's perfect. It's exactly what you're looking for here. Again, drills across court kick out, like skip pass. I think he got more engaged kind of as the game went on too. Like, it felt like he started to see it just like even better. This is just like a sneaky smart thing here that Scoot does. Scoot decides to cut through. That forces Jalen Johnson in even further and opens up the ball to Kamara here. Perfect. He's seeing it well by the end of this game. We'll see if this continues. They have a game tomorrow night, but miss here by Trey. Ball can get a little bit loose with his left hand. Ball just gets a little bit wide on him there. So here, steps in. Just look at how slowed down it is, right? There's no rush. This is like an air ball, if I remember correctly, or something. Yeah, hits the backboard. Rob Williams goes and digs it out. Rob Williams is a stud. Some guys panic here. Shoot this. I love the patience. I love the calmness. Just walks right into it. Has 3 seconds left on the shot clock. Realizes that I have enough time for a pass. Or I have enough time for a shot. You can see he's looking here. Once Rob clears this, he's trying to figure out, am I better just to shoot here, or am I better to be able to get this all the way out to the corner? Just decides to shoot it. I'm comfortable with 3 seconds left on the shot clock. Goes right in. Again, just like a little down screen there. 120 left. Hawks up 3. They're running plays for Shaedon here, right? Down screen. He decides to curl. I'm sure he has the option to kind of play this however he wants. Does he want to go up, maybe set a screen? Does he want to do different things? Like, there are options here. Does he ghost it and then try and get Scoot into a empty side pick and roll here if he wants to? He decides to curl. The reason that I think he decides to curl this is because Kamara is screening for him. It's a good identification of who to have screen. Attack Trae Young. They switch it. Shaedon sees they're switching it, and he goes down. Goes to work on Trae. Realizes he's more physical. He's stronger. It's good work. It's really good work. Makes one free throw there. I mean, this one is just, he's feeling it, right? There's no other way to put this. Scoot kicks this out to him. There's 3 seconds left on the shot clock, but again, looks up. Literally see him looking up the shot clock. No panic. Honestly, I would like to see a little bit more panic, but maybe not panic, but I'd like to see just a little bit more aggression sometimes, but just drills it and they take the lead, right? 109 to 108. And then just reads Dyson Daniels like a book here. This is another really good defensive possession. So here he has to help down onto Trae Young because Klingon is here, helping the helper. Now he's responsible sort of for a 1-on-2, but not really. Kamara is back here, right? So he's shooting out anyway up to Krejci, and it's just a bad read from Dyson. And he's there, sprints out and gets it, stays there for a few seconds. Struggles to get anywhere on Krejci for a second. That's just a sick screen from Kamara. I love the way that he just kind of maneuvers around here. Kamara flips it into a beautiful deep step up. And yeah, they end up winning this game in large part because Shaedon Sharpe completely took over late. It's not going to happen every game, Blazers fans. You guys know that. It's not going to happen every game. But to feel good about this season, it doesn't have to either. It just doesn't have to. If you see flashes like that once every 5 games, great. If you see him, average 20 a game, great. That's what I would be looking for if I was a Blazers fan. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm kind of talking through why I'm not a huge fan of Billups. I'm not a big Billups fan because in general, I don't think that his offense leads to the kind of shots that a modern offense should be taking. If you watch, for instance, the Celtics don't run a lot of complicated actions, right? But it's built upon trying to get guys open for 3. The Blazers currently 27th in terms of 3-point attempt rate, despite the fact that Anthony Simons has played 12 games this year. Kamara has really improved as a shooter. Jeremy Grant is like a 35-ish% 3-point shooter. Shaedon Sharpe is a guy that's very comfortable shooting threes. He's taken 6 of them per game. Denny is a guy that's fairly comfortable shooting threes for the most part. Banton is making threes so far. Those guys just need to up the volume. And I think that a lot of the sets they run, they don't actually get to the spots that you run. And to me, you say you can't possibly compare the Celtics to the Blazers. From a process perspective, you can. I mean, I can compare the Nets to the Blazers, and the Nets do this stuff all the time. Jordi Fernandez has done an unbelievable job of creating opportunities and fostering an offense that creates open threes, creates shots at the rim. doesn't end up turning the ball over regularly. And I think the turnover problems, like honestly, like I think a lot of that is young guards, right? But in general, I don't think the Billups offense fosters looks that look like a modern offense should look. They don't foster the kind of shots that I think a modern offense should actually generate. And, you know, Rachel brings up a great point here too. Hornets to Blazers could be compared talent and system. Again, the Hornets take a ton of threes, right? Charles Lee came from Boston and basically has implemented a system where they just try and generate threes and fire. That's what they should be doing. But unfortunately, I don't think that this Blazers scheme ends up generating those kind of looks. And look, like from what I know, like Nate Bjorkgren came in and like he's running parts of the offense here too. And like, I'm sure he's a huge part of the offensive structure as well. I don't want to sit here and just like put all the blame on Billups either, but I think that they could do a better job of utilizing the floor spacers they have and generating open attempts from distance. But regardless, the point here is about Shaedon Sharpe. And if you watch this and you watch this guy changing speeds to get into the paint, the explosiveness, the leaping ability, I'm excited. And if I was Portland, I would be empowering him much more so than I would be empowering somebody like Anthony Simons. And given Simons his contract where he has like a year and a half until he's a free agent, I would probably be looking to move Simons at the trade deadline anyway, if I'm being honest. And I would definitely be looking at moving Ayton at the deadline. I mean, the level to which those guys work better with better screeners like Rob Williams and Klingon out there is drastic. Like it's just such an enormous difference to me. But in regard to Shaedon, the areas to clean up, footwork around the basket, 1 foot finishes, as opposed to 2. Use the power of your length to extend and finish, as opposed to trying to just jump off of 2 feet and hang in the air every time. You can beat guys to the rim. Second, just consistently getting the same shot mechanics every time. That's the big one. That's where the efficiency leap will come even more as a shooter. 28% from 3 right now, right? I think he has more touch than that. I think it'll come as he ages, but that's where the next piece is. Finally, just defensive engagement. Like he's going to have to improve the defensive engagement. That's like just a non-negotiable for me. But by and large, I like the steps that Shaedon Sharpe is taking right now for the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think I would actually have him ahead of Scoot right now in terms of importance to the organization. The level to which he has grown is pretty drastic right now. And he just has tools that Scoot doesn't in terms of size. So that's where I'm at. Before we move on to the Houston Rockets and Jalen Green, which won't be super long, I want to be clear about that. We're going to shout out our good friends over at Duer. My Duer pants are the most comfortable piece of clothing that I own. I've been wearing these things everywhere. I'm literally wearing a pair of Duer jeans right now while we're talking. I had to go out earlier, had to go do an appointment. I've been trying to get better with my sleep recently. And what did I do this morning? I put on my pair of Duer jeans because they're the most comfortable pair of jeans that I own. And they also look good when I'm out in public. Duer is built for doing, with styles of stretch performance denim and lifestyle apparel for everyone in every season. They've got you covered for the colder months with fabrics like a fireside denim or the all-weather denim. And that's going to feature a wind and weatherproof membrane soft shell. Plus, Duer's clothes are sustainably crafted, my goodness, to last. So they'll be a staple in my closet for years. I absolutely love my Duers, and I know you will too. Check out Duer's flagship stores in LA or Denver, or shop online at shopduer.com/game theory. My listeners are going to get 20% off your first purchase when you use my exclusive URL, shopduer.com/game theory. It's an awesome deal. Don't wait. Get that 20% off and go to shopduer.com/game theory. Okay. Let's talk through Jalen Green. I always regret wading into the Jalen Green wars because I feel like it's a war within the Houston fan base, even if I'm being honest. There are some people who love him, some people who don't. I have always probably been just like slightly on the lower end of Jalen Green. I absolutely hated the contract extension they gave him, not because, I think there's not a chance he's worth $30 million in the future. If he hits the ceiling that he can as a shooter and as a shot creator, that's probably going to be a good deal. But there's just no upside in it because it's a 3-year contract with a team option or a player option, in the second year. And this is like a high risk, high reward player where if it works, he's going to be a bargain at 30 million. But you're not really going to realize the upside of that bargain because he's going to end up being gone in 2 years into unrestricted free agency. So like you can look at it as, okay, like $30 million, we didn't have to max him, whatever, but they only have him for 2 more years beyond this one, guaranteed. And if he really hits, you better believe he's trying to max out that money because he didn't get the full amount this time. That's the way that works, guys. And if he doesn't, then he's just not worth the deal, which makes it a bad deal. If he doesn't get better, he's not worth 30 million. So far this season, he has not been worth 30 million. So Jalen Green so far, 19.7 points per game, shooting 39% from the field, 32% from 3, 5 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 2.6 turnovers. Assists are down over the last 2 years. Turnovers are up from last season's mark. Look at his true shooting percentage. It is currently, per Basketball Reference, 10% below league average at a 51.6 level currently. This has not been going well on offense. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think he has shown better moments on defense. I think particularly like if he's lined up on someone one-on-one, it's generally pretty okay. And I think that late in games, he's like pretty active and engaged and looks pretty good. But he's also not an impact defender either. Like in this game, for instance, like they hit him on Gary Trent and Taurean Green, right? Or not Taurean Green, Jesus, shout out Florida. Taurean Prince in this game. Occasionally on AJ Green as well, but for the most part, it was more Prince and Trent, I felt like. And those guys just don't run off a lot of actions. They don't move a ton. They're largely spot up guys in this offense. And the annoying thing about that, if you're a defense in that case, is that Jalen is not like an impactful help defender. I think he's gotten better at like making the right rotations and being available at times, but like he's not out there cutting off angles like Dyson Daniels is, or, trying to cut down space. Like he's largely just like staying attached to his guy and allowing you to continue to open up the court. So I would say he's still like a slight negative on defense. I think he's gotten better, but like overall with the impact I still think it's not quite a positive one. And when the shot isn't falling, it's just a significant issue and it's hard to have him on the court. I think the shot will fall at a higher rate than what it has this season. But here's the problem with all of this. I say that, and he shot 33% from 3 last year. He's only 0.4% off of his 3-point percentage last season. He's only 1% off of his 3-point percentage the year before. It might just be a deal where he's not quite a great shooter, unfortunately. That's where the jump is going to have to come here. And like, it's easy for me to say, be a better shooter. Like that's just like the easiest analysis in the world for somebody. Hey, you have to shoot better, right? But in this case, like it's important for Jalen Green to be a great shooter. There isn't really a player in his archetype that isn't at the very least a high level shooter. It doesn't have to be an elite shooter. It doesn't have to be a great shooter. It has to be an above average shooter. And he's not that right now. We're going to kind of zoom through the tape on this one a little bit. We'll stop in some places. But the other thing I want to call out with Jalen Green so far this year, I think the Jalen Green fans among Rockets fans, I think of him as this great finisher. And he's just not that. Like right now, he's 35th percentile at the basket this season. And that's in all situations. In half court situations, he's shooting 53% at the rim. Last season, per synergy, Jalen Green, 30th percentile at the basket. In half court situations, shot 50% at the rim. As a sophomore, Jalen Green, in half court situations, shot 46% at the rim. And where I think I want to call that out is particularly in his footwork and in his inability to slow down. There were it's clear that he's trying to improve the ability to slow down and change pace. If you look at any of his like training footage that he released this summer, it was all about that, right? That's where the next step has to come for Jalen Green. And on top of that, the guy just kind of has to shoot better. So let's just kind of dive in and talk through it. So in this game against Milwaukee, which was a really fun game last night, by the way, Green goes for 21, but 0 free throw attempts, 24 attempts to get to 21, 3 turnovers with only 2 assists, 3 for 8 from 3. Didn't have a bad shooting day. But some of the areas where he was inefficient are just like glaringly obvious. This one, like this is where he should live as a shooter, right? Anytime the ball comes out to him off the catch. I mean, I like what Jabari sees here. Jabari, quick touch pass, boom. Again, I think on the shot, I think that is like a very, very like acute angle to bring your elbow in, which means there's just a lot of moving parts at the top on the shot. He gets himself back into alignment, but it's just harder to have a consistent release point when you have that bringing the ball back this far and then trying to finish it. I think he's super balanced. I think the base is good here. All that stuff is real. But when you start getting on the move and you start having to hit pull-ups like he has to, that's when the mechanics can kind of fade a little bit. So ram ball screen here. You know, you saw, I'm not going to rewind, but Jalen goes here up to Alperin, going up to set a screen. He filters to the corner. DHO. 5 seconds left on the shot clock. I'm good with this shot, but balance. I think it comes out a little flat, personally. I love that he's going forward, able to stop, get on balance, straight up and down. He's an unbelievable athlete. Like we all know that about Jalen Green. But I think it comes out a little flat on that one. So basically like a horns-ish set with the wide set here for Jalen. Entry pass, screen away, come off of a screen here for Fred. This is where we get into just like never slowing down for Jalen. I love that he turns the corner here on Brook. Like I think that he probably should just try and go into Taurean Prince's body here. If he goes into Taurean Prince's body here, Taurean's like turning this way and like kind of coming this way. I think this ends up being a foul call. I understand why he throws this ball. I don't want to be overly critical. But if you're going to throw this, after you see Taurean come over, and I get why he picks up the ball here too, because Giannis is here and reaching. But I think this probably has to be a wraparound. Great high end. Like Jalen Green has to become an elite creator with the ball in his hand. High end players make that wraparound pass. I'm sorry. That is a difficult pass. I get it. I'm not sitting here saying it's not hard, but instead he decides to go up, try and throw it over the top of a dude that's 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan in Taurean Prince, and it just gets deflected, right? It's a bad decision at the end of the day. But it's also because he's full speed here and just decides to go. There's no change of speed here. Doesn't even really consider it. This one, I mean, he just gets blocked at the basket, right? I get why he goes up here. I kind of think if you see Giannis there lurking, like right at the semicircle when you're going up, I think you just bring this down. Again, these are hard split-second decisions. I don't want to act like they're not. They are. They're exceedingly difficult. I certainly couldn't make them. Nobody in the comments could certainly make them. But they're kind of what's required to be a great player in the NBA. I think he probably shouldn't go up with that one. Here, that's just a screen here from Adams, up and around to the corner and a baseline out of bounds play. And just loses the ball. They decide to blitz the ball. And he just loses it. You can't. It's a great play here by Trent. Like Trent gets behind. You can see him like just kind of poke the ball away. It's tough. So 2 on the ball here defensively. This is one of those ones that require like real communication. 2 on the ball. Short roll. Up here. Absolutely Jalen's responsibility to help. Absolutely not an easy situation because the guy he's guarding is 40% three-point shooter easy. AJ Green's an absolute flamethrower. So Brook loses this ball. But look at them communicating around Jalen here. Steven Adams is telling AJ Green, or selling Jeff Green, I'm sorry, to get out to AJ Green because he's recovering back to the big. Instead, Jalen thinks he's going back to Jeff or to AJ Green. A lot of greens on the court. And it's just a real miscommunication here. I'm not sure if he's not listening. I'm not sure what the deal is there. It's a hard one, but to me, that's kind of on him. Adams is communicating. He's telling, as the captain of the defense, he's telling those guys where he needs them to go. So Tari Eason around ball screens here. Good backdoor cut. Just tries to go off of 2 feet. Full speed, right? I like the cut. I like how he sets up the cut. I like the sharp movement, then goes. But he just decides to try and load up against Brook Lopez, who is a brick wall on the interior. That's never going to go well. I'm sorry, that's just a bad decision. You can't try to go up against Brook Lopez and finish like this. He gets it back out to Tari. I think Tari misses. Yeah, we get to see the Tari misses. It's just a bad choice. So Reed. I mean, AJ Green here does a great job on Jalen Green. You have 0.5 seconds left on the shot clock. It is what it is, right? Coming off and just like a quick screen here. AJ is going to pop out. But here's the other thing. I would expect Jalen Green with 5 seconds on the shot clock to beat this guy. I think AJ Green did a really good job on defense in this game. I don't want to take anything away from him. AJ Green did a great job. They tried to attack him and he held up. But I don't know. I don't see anything here that's like particularly sudden or aggressive going forward, right? It's all to get to a step back. Like you watch Jaylen Brown, you watch Jason Tatum, like we watched earlier. Those guys are able to drive forward with the ball. I feel like Jalen struggles with that unless he has the advantage and can get downhill in a straight line. But then when he gets downhill in a straight line, it's all about going downhill. It's not about changing speeds. I feel like, whereas with Shaedon Sharpe, like we see Shaedon changing speeds, we see Shaedon like changing gears and trying to make different moves. We don't see that often from Jalen Green, unfortunately. But then he can do shit like this and it doesn't matter. Like these are the spectacular moments where you're like, oh, I can see where this is going. So horn set. And that's just a quick between the legs crossover. But again, does it at full speed. He gives like a slight hesitation here. I'll give him credit for like a slight hesitation here. But there's no patience necessary here. This is just a hesitation. He's just not a very patient player. But when he can get downhill, he can do stuff like that. And he's a sick downhill player. This one, just a step back to get to a 3. I mean, this is a disgusting shot to me with 18 seconds on the shot clock. Sorry, 17 seconds. This can't be the look this early in the shot clock. It's a bad shot. It's bad shot selection. This one I put on here. So this is end of the half, 5 seconds on the shot clock, right? Like I don't want to sit here and harp on this like too much. But I think it does like kind of show something a little bit, if I'm being honest. So great behind the back move, great crossover. You have Brook Lopez on you now. You know that you're trying to get to a pull-up shot. Why are you not taking the 3? Why are you not sidestepping into a 3 here? Instead, you're taking a 20-foot, 2-foot, or 20-foot 2-point jumper. 3 is more than 2. And this is a choice. Most of the time on an NBA court, you don't have a choice. This is a choice. Can't happen. So again, moments where if I'm going to call out some negative moments defensively, I'm always going to call out some positive ones. I like this. This is a good double here. This is a good help from Jalen Green. He sees that Fred has the mismatch. He comes over immediately, gets the steal. This is really good. This is engaged basketball. I love how Jabari rotates behind him. I like how Alperin is in the middle of that potential passing lane there and that one there. This is good from Jalen Green. This is excellent. He's active. He's engaged. He's willing. Fred comes down, drills the 3. Huge part of why they were able to get back into this game. This one, again, you're just downhill, right? He just beats AJ Green. Hesitation at the front here, and then just goes. Turns the corner on Brook Lopez, gets to the basket. Good work. That's really good. When he's in transition, he can be really effective. This one again, downhill, turns the corner. I think where I'm at with Jalen Green in terms of like how he should operate around the basket. This is a beautiful just zoom action, right? And then, he comes out beyond the 3-point line, but the whole thing is he's curling here. If he is downhill full speed and has turned the corner, go up for a layup. If he hasn't, I would like to see him continue to dribble the ball out at this point. That when he turned the corner, he did great. He's unbelievably fast. Like he has the ability to do that. This one, I'm going to call out the good ones. I'm going to call out the bad ones now. So you can defend these things multiple ways. Ball screens, right? So screen here, and then Brook is going to roll. This is Giannis on this side, on an empty side of the court with one player. Jalen is the low man here. Brooks can't leave Giannis. Also, it's the one player side here. Typically, you do want to help from the weak side, and the ball is on this side of the court. You want to help from the weak side. But when a team is running a ball screen from an overloaded side of, or on an overloaded side of the court, you want this guy to help. Why do you want this guy to help? Because there are 2 players here and you have 1 to guard 2. That is better math than if Brooks helps to tag the roller here. 0 on 1. That's better. 1 on 2 is better math than 0 on 1. And here, Jalen is just late. You can see Brooks kind of shrug, shoulders down. Alperin shrug, shoulders down. Those are just kind of killers. Those are frustrating. So here, takes a couple ball screens. Şengün tries to flip, tries to set the step up. There's just like no, you watch other ball handlers with screeners, right? And this could be these 2 guys. It could be Jalen. It could be Alperin, whatever it is. It doesn't feel like either of them knows what the other wants in a screen to me. So Alpern comes up high, just kind of gets like a brush on AJ, right? So stop. Alpern comes over like he's going to set a screen. Okay. Maybe he'll go around. Jalen doesn't go around. He's deciding he's not going to go around. Okay. Alpern's going to try and set a step up screen. Jalen has gone the other way. Maybe he's trying to set up the step up screen, but in that case, like Şengün is now off of his line for the step up, right? And he's like trying to like turn his hips at that point and like roll. It just feels like those two don't have great consistent connectivity in screens. I'm not saying that Alperen has never set a great screen for Jalen. I'm not saying that Jalen has never figured this out. But whatever it is, those two need to figure out what they're trying to do in screens together. Now he gets to a step back and misses it. Right? Like this is just it's not great offense. Loads up, contested step back, 10 seconds left on the shot clock. They need to figure out their chemistry in terms of what they're doing in those actions. So here, wide open three. What happens on the release, guys? I would argue that this release is a little bit farther from his face than is normal. So the ball kind of flattens a little bit. When you have that many moving parts at the top of the shot, it's hard to be consistent. So here, full speed, gets up and down the court. Again. This guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, former Defensive Player of the Year, former league MVP, guy renowned for his wingspan. The choice can't be here to go up for this shot. It can't. I'm sorry. It just can't be. You can't just decide, oh, I'm going to outleap Giannis. Sometimes you just don't have the advantage. It's okay to bring the ball out when that's the case. Horrendous closeout leads to a easy bucket there. I would argue he's too far off of this guy. I mean, first and foremost, like AJ Green, 6 shooter. Really, really high level shooter. Always ready to fire, by the way. Look at his shot prep. Low. A line toward the rim. He sets himself up for failure here by being too deep. He's like in this area here, which means the closeout's a little bit longer than it needs to be, which means he's going to bite on the pump fake. It's defensive consistency. Like he has moments where he's good on defense. Like he's improved on defense, especially one-on-one. It's the team defense stuff, closing out, being available to rotate all the time, getting through screens off the ball. I think he's gotten better on the ball. I think he's really bad at getting through them off the ball still. This one. Fourth quarter now. I think he started to get rolling a little bit in the fourth. Good relocation, though, is what I want to call out here. So he's diving into the rim here. Not totally sure why he's diving into the rim. I would just prefer him to be spaced here. If he's spaced there, and this man still helps, he's created a window for an open 3-point pass. If Tari gets contested here like he does. By being here, he's just kind of guarded, right? So I don't like the start of this, but I do like the relocation after the kick out. That's good work. This one, another relocation 3. Does a really good job here. I kind of forget what this action was, if I'm being honest. But he's up here. Amen feels like he has a mismatch with Damian Lillard. And I like that Jalen looks at Taurean Prince here and says, oh, my guy has no idea what's going on with me here. Let's just get into a shot. Sweet. This is awesome. So 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Goes in, challenges Brook Lopez again. And it's all at full speed. I mean, I like the initial move to separate from Prince, but you've got Brook Lopez loading up here. You've got Bobby Portis, who you probably felt coming in to dig. His head and eyes are for the rim only right here because he's going full speed. If he's not going full speed, Amen has Damian Lillard leveraged. This is an easy kick out. Even if you don't want Şengün to take this shot, I would argue that a Şengün corner 3-point shot is probably a higher leverage outcome here than Jalen Green challenging a rotating Brook Lopez in perfect position coming over to the rim. But B, you get the defense in rotation. You shoot this ball back up to Tari Eason. Maybe he gets an open three. Maybe Tari gets an open drive after Bobby Portis ends up closing out. The decision-making tree is just not quite good enough here. This one does a good job. Just misses the shot, right? Sometimes you're just going to miss shots. Like, I don't want to harp too much on the missed shots. I like the way he sets up guys on cuts. I do. I think that the way he just zooms down this way after, it's sharp. He uses the threat of his speed really well out of potential dribble handoffs. Do I love 11 seconds on the shot clock? You know, taking a mid-range jumper? Not always, but this one, it's open. It's one that you have to make, though, if you're going to be a star. So this one, Alperin just backing down. Challenges a rim protector perfectly in position. And this is tough because this is late shot clock, right? 6 seconds left on the shot clock. 5 seconds left, still doesn't have the ball. 4 seconds left. Ball gets deflected by Taurean Prince. I like this little up fake here. It's good pace, right? But I would argue that if you're going to take a mid-range jumper, this is one where you probably do want to take one. 2 seconds left on the shot clock. This is a floater opportunity. This is a stop and pop opportunity, right? You can see Bobby Portis is right here. And Bobby Portis, not like the world's best rim protector, right? But not a bad one. Not a guy that, like, he's still 6'11" or whatever, like 6'10". The other thing I will say is, like, in his sophomore year, I think Jalen started to, like, play with a floater. It felt like to me. And I felt like he started to make them. I don't know where that went, because this is what that needs to be. And it would open up so much more for him around the basket. This year, he's taken 9 floaters. He's like 1 for 9 on them. Last year, he didn't even take one per. He took like under 1 per game. I think a floater would be huge for Jalen Green. Jump stop, floater, runner, whatever it is. Something in this area of the court that wouldn't make him just sprint into 7-footers all the time. Would be a huge counter for him. Instead, he just goes up off of 2 feet against the 7-footer. Tari Eason does a great job, potentially getting a bucket there. By the way, the Rockets are still winning this game after a huge third quarter. Green rejects the screen, and he's just head down going into a rim protector here again. I get that he thinks he can turn the corner on this guy. He's done it once in this game, but not from a standstill. He did it off of a zoom action where he had a head of steam. He can't do it from a standstill right now. This one. And this is where you can see him be special in the open court, right? It's the half court decision making. Anything in full court looks fine to me. I still personally don't like this shot. This is way harder than it has to be. This, to me, given his efficiency on these shots, should still probably go out to Aaron Holiday. But hey, I'm not going to complain about a make. I mean, he goes around. I mean, just look at how freaking high in the air he is. Look at, his legs are splayed everywhere. Like he's going up this way. It's unbelievable. Like the body control's unbelievable here. And it's a special play. But process wise, given what he's shown around the rim, it's not great. This one, challenges Brook Lopez again. Look, I think he's probably like 2 for 6 challenging these bigs like this. You're not going to miss them all, and I think he does a great job of setting up AJ Green here after the switch. That's one of Jalen's favorite moves, right? Is be dribbling with his left. Looks like he's going to stop and kind of string out AJ a little bit more. Puts it between his legs to the right. Drives quickly. Turns the corner well here. But to me, we always watch the eyes, right? Like with these videos. He's just looking up the rim. Like he has Alperin potentially cutting back door, and look, like Alperin certainly was not a great finisher in this game. We're not going to sit here and say otherwise, but I'd like to see him look out a couple of times at least. He makes this one. Like, again, I'm not going to complain about a make, I guess, but the process for him tends to be harder. He's not a great finisher at the rim, and he's attempting these shots. Sometimes they go, like guys who are this athletic, they're going to make shots at the basket. So here, just has the Dame mismatch, right? Feels it. Switch. Again, I don't think he's looking around the court. Corner kick out there. Corner kick out here. 4 dudes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All still in the lane. No one within 30 feet of him. If you don't like the Alperin shot, no one within 30 feet of him. This can't be the shot here. It just can't be. Especially fading away. Wide open. It's the decision making, guys. It's the fact that he's not a great shooter yet. I think he's improved as a shooter. I think the percentages are going to go up. It's hard for me to say that, but I think they'll go up. At least in terms of jump shooting. I don't know if the finishing percentage will go up, but that's going to go up. The shooting, I think that he's fine enough, but again, like he needs to make shots look easier at the top. Like there's just a lot of movement at the top of his shot, I think. And the decision making just still isn't there. It's just not. That's why he's inefficient more than the shot to me, even, is the decision making. I don't even really think that like he's a bad shooter or anything. He's not a great shooter, but he makes enough shots with enough touch to where he's not a bad shooter. It's the decision making. The decision making has got to get better. That is the biggest reason he's inefficient. Hit his open teammates and change speeds. He's got to change speeds. That's the next step in the evolution. Like it has to involve him changing speeds. I don't know. I'm bummed. Like I don't enjoy doing this video. I mean, I would like to see Jalen Green succeed. I enjoy this Rockets team. The Rockets, by the way, are quite good still. They're sitting here right now at 10-5. They're fourth in the West. They played like a really hard schedule too, and they're still fourth in the West. Coming off of winning like 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8, whatever it was. Took care of business against the Wizards. Took care of business against the Pistons. Beat the Clippers twice. Took care of business against Chicago. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. But to take that next step, it involves Jalen Green taking that next step as a decision maker. It's a bummer. Like I was excited early in the season, and I was excited in preseason. I was like, okay, like maybe we're seeing some flashes here, but it's regressed a little bit in the regular season. And look, it's not all on Jalen in the backcourt. You know, Fred VanVleet has been hit or miss this season. He's been quite good lately, I would argue, but over the course of the full season, it's been, you know, especially early in the season, he was really struggling to shoot. I haven't loved Dylan Brooks this year. Jabari Smith has not been great so far, especially on offense. I mean, Tari and Amen are the two guys that are just like holding up Houston right now. The fact that those two guys are doing what they're doing, I mean, absolutely the most important part of Houston's operation right now, I think, is those two guys. Other than Alperin. Alperin's been really good throughout the season too. I don't want to downplay what Alperin's doing. He's averaging like 18, 11, and 5. He needs to finish. Like the finishing around the rim has been a problem for Alperin, but he's doing enough on offense outside of the finishing. Tari and Amen have been huge though. Their ability to come in and just crush bench units, bring the Rockets back into games, they've been enormous. Yeah, there's been like a narrative that Şengün's been really good defensively based off of like some of the metrics. I wouldn't say he's been bad on defense. I think he's generally doing what they're asking him to do in scheme. I think I'll just kind of stop there. I don't think he's been like incredible on defense. I think he's been fine. Like he's been fine at doing what they're asking him to do, which is enough. That's enough. I don't want to act like it isn't. I think that's all I've got. You know, William asks here, thoughts on the Embiid situation. I don't know. I'll probably wait for Bryce to talk about that a little bit more because I'm sure Bryce will have thoughts. My immediate reaction is you can't do what Embiid has done. Ask them to go get stars to win now, like Paul George. Go play in the Olympics and then come back, not be totally healthy. Like I think his injuries were like a real thing to start the year. I'm not saying that they weren't. But then you can't also not do the right things in terms of team meetings and trying to get back as quickly as you can to help your team. I haven't thought he's moved well when he's been on the court this season. Is my issue. Like I've just felt like it's been a real struggle to watch him move. He doesn't look fluid. He's definitely not elevating. So, look, I tend to be on the side of players on this one, or like on anything by and large. But if you have Tyrese Maxey coming to you and saying, we need you to be at team meetings on time, we need you to do the right things, you're in the wrong. And that's a real problem. It's a real problem for the Sixers if their guy that they've built this entire thing around, just signed an extension, is not doing the right things. It sucks. It's a bummer. But that's a significant problem that needs fixed. He needs to start. Honestly, it's just being a professional. Like that is the stuff that is being a professional at the highest level. You need to do the right things in that regard. And I saw some people saying like, oh, why is it not Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey bringing this up? Why is it the players? Honestly, sometimes it has to be the players. Players respect other players. If Nick Nurse is telling you to do something and you're not like getting through to him or whatever, sometimes that'll happen, right? Sometimes people want to rebel against authority figures or whatever. When it's your peers, the guys that you're going into games with every night, trying to win, trying to compete for a title, and they're the ones telling you that you're not doing the right things, that's sometimes when I think it can hit better. So I think that honestly is like fine. I think it's fine that Morey and Nurse, weren't involved here and that it was the players. I just want to say that. That's all I've got tonight, though. Be back tomorrow night or Friday. Not sure yet. We'll figure that out at a later date. If the games tomorrow night are good, I might do something. If not, tonight's games weren't particularly awesome. By the way, Dalton Connect went for like 37. Please, by all means, go watch the Dalton Connect video I did. We talked about his game against the Pelicans, which was a career game for 27 points. He quickly surpassed that with 37 tonight. I might end up having to do another Dalton Connect video tomorrow night. But Dalton Connect should be a starter for the Los Angeles Lakers. He looks awesome. And it's a perfect fit of scheme and player with Dalton Connect. Go watch the video I did. I kind of talked through all of that and talked through him being a good starter. That's all I've got. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Go follow all of the Game Theory social media accounts, X, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. All of those are great places to get the show. Subscribe over on YouTube. Hit the like button before you leave if you're watching this live. If not, if you're watching it later, hit the like button before you leave. Really appreciate all of you guys hanging out. Until next time, we'll talk soon.